Surging ahead, a new forecast predicts Taiwan will overtake Japan and South Korea in a key economic indicator. But are the Taiwanese people feeling the benefits? Drawing a line, Taiwan's defense ministry says it will take countermeasures if China encroaches its territorial waters. Brewing the best, a Taiwan coffee master wins a world championship. And a rare protest in China against President Xi Jinping highlights mounting discontent as the leader prepares to stay on for another term. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. The International Monetary Fund has raised its forecast for Taiwan's GDP growth this year to 3.3%. That would see Taiwan's GDP per capita become the highest in East Asia, outperforming Japan for the first time. Yujing Huang has more.
Taiwan is currently one of the world's best performing economies. That's according to the latest report from the International Monetary Fund, or IMF. The organization has raised its forecast for the island's economic growth this year to 3.3%, and with it, Taiwan's GDP per capita. That figure is the country's total economic output divided among its population. And for the first time in over a decade, Taiwan is set to overtake neighbors Japan and South Korea on this key metric. But people on the streets of the capital Taipei say they aren't feeling the change.
超越日韩吗？
是刚刚才知道，感觉不太出来哎。
因为薪水没有涨啊。
啊，确实，
薪水都一样，
好像没有什么生活突然变得更好的感觉。
Any increase in salaries has been eaten up by inflation. The war in Ukraine and hiking interest rates globally have affected prices around the world, and Asia is no exception. The IMF's latest data shows that inflation will reach 5.5% in South Korea, 3.1% in Taiwan, and 2% in Japan. But overall, Taiwan may face a smaller problem compared to its Asian neighbors.
台湾这2年受到疫情的影响比较小。台湾在疫情的第1年经济成长率还有3%，第2年是6%。明年跟后年，我们的成长率预计也会超过韩国跟日本。所以第一个，你的经济成长率高；第二个，你的汇率贬的又没有人家多，所以你的国民所得相对起来的话，当然会比他们高的一些。
Taiwan's semiconductor industry, the world's most advanced, has led much of the country's economic growth over the past 2 years. Chip-making giant TSMC's third-quarter revenue surpassed both its main rivals, South Korea's Samsung and the United States' Intel. With so much money concentrated in one industry, many workers feel like they are missing out.
可能是有钱人变有钱了，那可能是底下的员工还是赚了一样多，因为时薪也没有调涨多少，就是等于是被有钱人拉高平均而已。对我们这些人来说。
As Taiwan now ends pandemic restrictions and rejoins the rest of the world, it will have to find a way to balance economic growth across different sectors. The country has been shielded from much of the economic turmoil seen across the globe over the past 2 years, but tougher times may still lie ahead. Klein Wang and Yujing Huang for TaiwanPlus.
Semiconductor giant TSMC has received a 1-year license which will allow it to access U.S. chip-making equipment for its facility in Nanjing, China. New Biden administration rules require licenses for any U.S. products being used for advanced chip-making facilities in China. The U.S. export controls are part of Washington's initiative to slow down Chinese tech advances. But the U.S. has granted licenses to TSMC and other companies in the sector to avoid disruptions to the semiconductor supply chain. Taiwan and the U.S. have signed 7 cooperative agreements, mostly in the areas of technology and renewable energy. Taiwan's Economy Minister Wang Meihua oversaw the signing in Washington between the 2 countries' representatives. The pacts involve several influential companies from both sides, including Taiwan's HTC and the U.S.'s General Electric. The main goal is to cooperate in areas such as 5G communications and renewable energy. Minister Wang says recent events have shown the importance of a secure global supply chain for continued economic growth. Taiwan has made it clear it will not allow Chinese aircraft into its territorial airspace. If there is an incursion, Taiwan's defense ministry says it will deem it a first strike by China and will take countermeasures. Bing Wang reports.
This is now a daily routine. Chinese military aircraft flying into Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ, an area which extends beyond territorial airspace. When incursions take place, Taiwan's Air Force scrambles jets in response. It's become a usual exercise. But Taiwan's military is watching to see if Chinese planes encroach deeper, past the ADIZ and into the 12 nautical miles deemed Taiwan's territorial airspace by international law. Especially after China's military, or the PLA, conducted unprecedented large-scale drills surrounding Taiwan in August, which the Taiwanese Defense Ministry saw as China shattering the already strained status quo.
共军它的任何飞航实体的侵入，经过广播示警，仍强行进入我的领空，或者是外岛的限制空域的时候，将视同为其对我的第一击。
After the first strike, the Defense Ministry said it would launch countermeasures. What those countermeasures are were not clarified. Some military experts agree with the ministry's definition of first strike.
他来的非常迅速，他可能来一下绕一圈就走，但他已经可能拍到了很多这个画面哦。那对他来说，他已经达到他这个袭扰的目的。那所以你这个他如果能够这个很有效率的这个立刻加以处置呢，其实这个对于国军官兵来说，能够立刻排除这样的相关的这种威胁。
With tensions between Taipei and Beijing at the highest in decades, Taiwan hopes that defining its red lines will prevent China from further breaching them, or such an offense will be taken as an intentional strike. Patrick Chen and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
The Biden administration's first national security strategy has named China as the greatest challenge the U.S. faces. Washington also expressed concern about the modernization of China's military and its aggressive activity around Taiwan. But the strategy document backs the cross-strait status quo, opposing Taiwan independence but reaffirming U.S. commitments to Taiwan's defense. Biden's national security advisor Jake Sullivan says the goal is not a new Cold War, but that action is needed within the decade.
The PRC's assertiveness at home and abroad is advancing an illiberal vision across economic, political, security, and technological realms in competition with the West. It is the only competitor with both the intent to reshape the international order and the growing capacity to do it.
Taiwan's reopening has many citizens living abroad planning trips home. But as John Van Trieste reports, the Taiwanese business community in China is finding it hard to come back for a visit.
Home at last. As Taiwan reopens, many of the country's citizens living abroad are coming back for long-awaited family reunions. But as they descend from all parts of the world, there is one place where coming home is proving to be a struggle, despite being just across the Taiwan Strait. China's zero-COVID policy and disrupted air travel pose hurdles for hundreds of thousands of business people. And if they do make it to Taiwan, there is no guarantee that they will be able to get back into China, mainly due to different standards in what constitutes a COVID infection.
Taiwan CT 值是30就已经达标了，不算是新冠。来到大陆的话，你 CT 值是超过30就会被送到隔离所去隔离。所以觉得还是相关部门要跟大陆相关部门来做一些沟通。
Taiwan's body overseeing relations with China says both sides still need to come to an agreement about restarting flight routes that were scrapped during the pandemic. The council says once flights resume, the focus will be on getting citizens home.
考量我方目前仍然有入境总额管制管控，为保障国人优先从海外返国的权益， 开放陆客来台观光并非优先的项目。
The council hasn't given a timetable for when talks might begin, meaning many families' reunions may have to be put on hold indefinitely. Patrick Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Police in Taipei found a 24-year-old Malaysian college student dead in her apartment on Thursday. The student is believed to have been strangled to death. Police say the main suspect is her 30-year-old boyfriend, surnamed Chen. He was later rushed to the hospital after an apparent suicide attempt. The motive is not yet known, and the investigation is ongoing. Taiwanese authorities are working with farmers to eradicate weeds from orchid exports. The U.S., Taiwan's largest market for the flower, sent back 16 batches of butterfly orchids and suspended imports last month. It found weeds such as grass in the plant's culture media. Taiwan's Agriculture Minister Chen Ji-zong was quizzed on the issue at the legislature on Thursday. He said the government is working to resolve the problem. Taiwan's orchid industry was worth around $200 million in 2021. A coffee expert from Taiwan has taken a top prize at this year's Melbourne World Coffee Championships. It's taken her years of dedication to master all the skills needed to make it to the top of the coffee world. John Van Trieste has her story.
The 2022 World Brews Cup champion is representing Taiwan, Sherry!
A moment of victory. Master coffee brewer Sherry Xu of Taiwan raises a golden coffee pot trophy, her prize for winning the World Brewers Cup at the 2022 Melbourne World Coffee Championships.
我有一点慢了几秒之后才反应过来，原来是叫我。
Getting to first place has taken a lot of perseverance. She first got serious about coffee brewing in 2016. By 2019, she was good enough to win a national championship. But her world championship bid that same year only saw her take 5th place. The pandemic left her unable to compete abroad for 2 years. But during that time, she has perfected her art.
做咖啡的人并不是只是煮咖啡，他要对 science、对物理、对很多的生活科学跟很多的人文风土都要非常认识。还有就是说，我们在很多的这个培训上面，那除了选手之外，也要很重要的是这个评审。
Having to pull off an award-winning performance amid a pandemic and in a place as different from Taiwan as Australia presented challenges.
找豆子这方面，因为疫情真的是增加了蛮多的困难点，像温湿度和台湾有很大的不同，然后这样子也会对于我们在准备的这些豆子也会有不一样的变化，这个是我们要在当地一直不断的去测试。
Xu now takes her place among a growing number of expert Taiwanese coffee brewers and tasters making their mark at global competitions like this one, and bringing the sweet taste of victory back home. Patrick Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, the Taiwan Expo makes its first ever stop in Washington, D.C. Maybe Joe Biden will go. Details after the break.
Taiwan 最有人情味的地方。
Thanks for watching Taiwan Plus. For more great stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the Taiwan Plus app.
Welcome back. You're watching Taiwan Plus News. A protest in the Chinese capital on Thursday called for the removal of President Xi Jinping. The highly unusual demonstration was quickly stamped out, and it's not known what happened to the people involved. But it comes at a sensitive time. The Communist Party is due to open its twice-a-decade Congress this weekend, and it follows other mounting signs of discontent in the country, as Louise Watt reports.
A heavy police presence around this Beijing bridge after a rare protest against Chinese President Xi Jinping. On Thursday, photos circulating on Twitter, which is banned in China, showed banners hung over the side of the busy bridge, calling for an end to strict COVID policies and the rule of Xi. The photos also showed smoke emanating from the bridge. TaiwanPlus wasn't able to independently verify the photos. Later in the day, the banners were gone, but the road showed evidence of a fire. As with many protests, authorities appeared to act swiftly to stop it and censor information about it within China. But this protest comes just days before China's ruling Communist Party opens its once every 5 years Congress, when Xi is expected to get an unprecedented third term in power, despite growing discontent among his people. The government's strict COVID policies have fueled anger and frustration across China, with dozens of cities still under lockdown or other control measures, and knock-on economic damage.
对于我们公司来说，因为这个疫情就是关闭几次，每年有的多的时候可能要停摆3到4次。
There have also been protests by people who lost access to their savings in a banking fraud scandal, and by investors in a now cash-strapped property developer, Evergrande. Thousands of buyers were left with unfinished homes when a real estate crisis erupted last year. But observers say the prospect of wider social unrest is slim.
Does this mean that China is in some way a social political volcano that's ready to blow? I think the answer is no. It seems unlikely to me that all of these, as much as people are upset by some of these policies, I think the threshold for taking to the streets to demand large-scale political change is pretty high.
The bridge protest called on people to remove, quote, dictator and national traitor Xi Jinping. China's massive security apparatus may have easily stamped it out, but it's going to be harder to solve the issues that sparked the anger, especially as the leader who oversaw them is on the cusp of extending his time in power. Andy Xue and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol says his government is ready to counter provocation from the north. Pyongyang fired a ballistic missile into the seas off the Korean peninsula's east coast and flew 10 military planes close to the border with its southern neighbor on Friday. Seoul says Pyongyang is violating a 2018 military pact that bans hostile acts in the border area. The uptick in military action by the North comes as Seoul imposes sanctions on North Korea, blacklisting 15 North Korean people and 16 institutions involved in missile development. Yoon told press on Friday his administration was ready to counter any threats.
여기에 대한 우려도 많이 있습니다만, 하여튼 정부는 출범 이후에 북의 이런 도발에 대해서 하여튼 나름 빈틈없이 최선을 다해서 대비 태세를 구축해 나가고 있고.
Flooding in southeast Australia has forced thousands of people to evacuate their homes. 2 days of non-stop rain have caused flash floods in large parts of Victoria, Tasmania, and New South Wales. Emergency responders have conducted more than 200 rescue operations. Devastating flooding has hit Australia regularly since early 2021. Experts say that's due to La Niña, a multi-year weather phenomenon that brings rain, as well as effects from climate change. Taiwan holds events highlighting its economy and manufacturing capability around the world. This week, for the first time ever, the Taiwan Expo was held in the U.S. capital. Eric Liao reports that this event also put the spotlight on Taiwan's culture.
Drumming up support. The first ever Taiwan Expo USA was held in Washington, D.C., with the aim of strengthening bilateral ties by highlighting Taiwanese culture.
那文化总会用台湾镇这个主题呢，希望能够在这个会场里面呢，让这个来参观展览的这些美国朋友也感受到台湾文化的一些气氛。那台湾镇最主要的就是希望说把台湾的庙口带到这个美国华府这边来。
Beyond Taiwanese culture, the three-day expo also showcased the country's technological innovations and manufacturing prowess. It was visited by Taiwan's representative to the U.S., Xiaobi Kim, who tried out some of the virtual reality technology. She wasn't the only Taiwan official to attend the event. Former Vice President Sun Jianren and Economy Minister Wang Meihua were there too. U.S. officials also took the opportunity to check out some of the products and to highlight the strong ties between Washington and Taipei.
The principles of Taiwan are so close to the principles of the United States that it is a natural partnership and friendship and sisterhood.
Reflecting that partnership, Taiwan Expo USA was open to the public, as the organizers hoped to go past political exchanges and build lasting people-to-people ties as well. Rick Yi and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
Shops around Taiwan's Hehuan Mountain are doing their part to improve views of the area's night sky. Since 2019, the mountain in eastern Taiwan's Hualien County has been a certified international dark sky park. This means locals turn down their lights at night so that stars are more visible. 72 shops in the area have signed up to become, quote, dark sky friendly establishments. That's up from 52 the year before. An 82-year-old man has set a record as the oldest person to sail around Taiwan. It sounds like an adventure, and for Zhan Zhenfeng, it was a tough one. Our reporter Sandy Chi was there to take us through his journey.
A roaring welcome for 82-year-old Taiwan sailor Zhan Zhenfeng.
Coach Zhan is coming onshore at Shizi Bay in southern Taiwan. Originally, he was expected to arrive on September 10, but with bad weather around the island, his arrival has been delayed. And today, he has finally finished his trip.
Back where he started his journey, Zhan is exhausted but excited, since he has been dreaming of the stay for 40 years.
以前我是有一个要追梦，但是我现在这个年龄了，是要在圆梦。但是我今天很高兴告诉大家，我完成了。
The trip was not easy. Even getting started was a challenge.
其实这个早几年就是想做的，等我有空想做的时候，又时不我与，偏偏来一个武汉肺炎，结果19号就来宣布3级警戒，所以又误了我青春。我如果再往后延的话，那不是到时候不是老高高。
But even after overcoming the first obstacle, many more still awaited Zhan. He faced weak winds, strong currents, and large waves. And the only way for him to conquer these challenges was to paddle his way through with all his strength. After enduring these difficult hurdles, the moments of wonder were all the more special. The ocean is mysterious and full of surprises, and Zhan encountered some magical sights along the way.
与海豚共舞，因为我那东海岸，哇，绕过那个什么，荷兰比，哎，突然我看见咚，就画个圆圈圈，那个海豚，也一群群的，就陪着我们在旁边这样的爬。
It was an unforgettable moment for Zhan, and he wouldn't have experienced it without his team. He says he only finished his journey because of their tireless support. Zhan's effort to realize his dream was not only for himself, it was also a message to the younger generation. Zhan is known as Johnson to some of his students.
I think Coach Johnson loved the sea, loved the Taiwan,
and he loved young people to face to the challenge and know how to plan and deal with the problem.
Before I left to report on the story, I didn't expect I would have my own magical moment. Shaking hands at sea with Jan, who is known in Taiwan as the father of sailing. And I also became one of his students.
重量平衡，越往外面力道越大，所以这条刚好可以保持着产生一个小的倾斜角度，像箭一般的冲出去。
Though Taiwan is surrounded by the ocean, sailing is not a popular sport here. The Chinese Taipei Sailing Association says this is probably because of a superstition passed on from older generations. They believe that the ocean is a dangerous place where accidents can happen. That's why people in the country tend to avoid water activities. Safe and sound back on shore, Coach Jan and his association have plans to help the public appreciate the fun and magic of sailing. As for what those plans are, he says, we'll just have to wait and see. Asnaya Zhou, James Rayner, and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of Taiwanese artist Paul Jiang's solo exhibition in Taitung Art Museum. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care and see you next time.